Welcome everyone to another edition of the Classic Comic Archive, a series where I recap and review many of Marvel Comics' most seminal early issues. Our story for today is Tales of Suspense 39, cover dated March of 1963. This issue marks the first appearance of Iron Man and was written by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber, drawn by Don Heck, and lettered by Art Simek. Our issue opens up with a striking splash page, showing our titular hero in the midst of his first outing as the invincible Iron Man. Yet before we get to the action, we must first travel to a closely guarded laboratory in the middle of the South Vietnamese jungle. There we find Tony Stark, a genius weapons inventor contracted by the US military. He's demonstrating his latest invention to a group of army officers. A miniature transistor, which he claims can amplify the power of electromagnets 1,000 times over. One officer present is skeptical of Stark's claim, but is won over when the device is activated, surging a small electromagnet with enough power that it tears an iron door off its hinges from feet away. This incredible device is just one of the many invented by Stark, whose globe-trotting life as a millionaire socialite is financed by their sales. When not in his laboratory, Stark's sure to be in the company of a beautiful woman, but the playboy's never tied down, as he's a notorious bachelor. Yet as Stark surrounds himself with the lavishes of high society, there are others forced to survive in squalor. They are the people of a South Vietnamese jungle village, brought to their knees by the wicked warlord Wong Chu. The tyrant and his band of guerrillas have captured yet another innocent village to plunder, but Wong Chu offers his captives a chance of freedom, for if only one of them can best him in a wrestling match, they will all be set free. Thus the strongest of the villagers rises to face the warlord. The desperate peasant proves a worthy challenger, but is nonetheless bested by Wong Chu, who then orders the village be ransacked and confidently declares that he's unstoppable. The issue then shifts focus to the outskirts of the jungle, where Tony Stark is being escorted to an American artillery position where his transistors are being used. Yet suddenly a group of Wong Chu soldiers spring up to attack. Stark's escort calls in an artillery strike, which hits the guerrillas and sends them fleeing. With the soldiers gone, Stark and his escort continue into the jungle, but fail to notice that Wong Chu's men had left a tripwire booby trap in their stead. Tony Stark stumbles on the trap, activating a hidden explosive device that knocks him unconscious. Only minutes later, one of the guerrillas returns to the trap and finds Stark. Thinking he might be a government official, the soldier brings him to Wong Chu at the tyrant's headquarters. There the warlord sifts through Stark's personal belongings and discovers papers that identify him as a weapons inventor. Recognizing the genius of their captive, Wong Chu demands an update on his condition. A guerrilla doctor then reveals that tiny shards of shrapnel were embedded in Stark's chest during the explosion. While he's still alive, the shrapnel is slowly inching closer to his heart and can't be surgically removed, leaving him with only days to live. Sometime later Stark has awoken and can tell he's slowly dying from the shrapnel in his chest. Wong Chu approaches the inventor and offers to surgically remove the shards, but only if he builds weapons for him. Stark recognizes that if such an operation was possible, the warlord would have already done it. But he accepts the offer nonetheless, vowing to use the time he has left to defeat his captor. Thus the tyrant brings Stark to a crude workshop, where the inventor pledges to build an especially powerful weapon. Yet this isn't an empty promise. Stark truly does intend to build a weapon, but only one to vanquish Wong Chu. The next day, Wong Chu enters Stark's workshop and presents the inventor with an old man called Yinsen, who he claims was once a great scientist and can now help in building his weapon. Stark recognizes Yinsen as a renowned physicist who had been missing for years and was presumed dead. Yet he had actually been captured and pressed into slavery. But back to the present, where Wong Chu leaves the two scientists to continue working. It's then that Stark shows Yinsen his design for a weapon against the tyrant. An iron suit that will electronically keep his damaged heart beating, and which will also grant him incredible strength. Yinsen is more than happy to help Stark build the suit, and the two geniuses get to work. Over the course of a few days, they carefully coordinate their activities and craft a scientific marvel. Yet they complete their weapon just as Stark's heart begins to give out. As quickly as he can, Yinsen encases Stark in their creation and activates a generator that begins slowly charging the suit. Yet as the two men wait, a warning light they had installed in their workshop activates, signaling the coming of Wong Chu. With the suit needing more time, and with the warlord's imminent arrival, Yinsen decides to sacrifice himself to save Tony Stark. So he rushes out of the laboratory and bravely wishes doom upon Wong Chu. As expected, the tyrant won't stand for such insolence and orders his men to strike down Yinsen. Thus the old man's fate is sealed, but his display of defiance gives Stark the time he needs to fully power his suit. Owing his life to Yinsen, he vows that his death will not have been in vain. Then, like Frankenstein's monster, Stark rises back to life. Yet his suit is massive and unwieldy, and like a newborn learning to walk, he stumbles on his first few steps. But the man's genius is like no other, and only moments later he has already mastered his and Yinsen's creation. But outside the workshop are Wang Chu and his men, furiously trying to break their way in. Stark thus equips his suit with suction cups and uses air pressure jet boots to attach himself to the ceiling. At the same moment Wang Chu breaches the workshop, but finds it seemingly empty as he doesn't notice Stark above him. So he orders his men to search the area and strike down the inventor just as they had Yinsen. And with that, they leave. Stark then drops from the ceiling and partially disguises himself with the clothes he had been wearing while first captured. Meanwhile in the courtyard of Wang Chu's headquarters, the warlord has bested yet another villager in a wrestling match. But suddenly a mysterious challenger approaches and calls Wang Chu a coward. The prideful villain then demands to know who would dare insult him, yet he isn't prepared for when the figure reveals himself to be a man of iron. Taking advantage of Wang Chu's stunned stillness, Stark powerfully hoists the tyrant above his head and begins spinning him around like a human top, before powerfully hurling him away. Wang Chu is sent flying across his headquarters, but his fall is broken by a grouping of foliage, from where he orders the Iron Man be destroyed. His guerrillas open fire on Stark, but their bullets ping right off him. They then rush to retrieve their heavier weapons, which gives the burgeoning hero an opportunity to retrieve one of his own. Yet his is a tiny electromagnet, which he increases the repelling power of 1,000 times over. Thus as the soldiers throw their grenades and fire their bazookas, the projectiles are only sent back at them. The incredible display of power sends the guerrillas fleeing in panic. Yet Wang Chu demands that his soldiers continue fighting as he rushes to a nearby tower with a loudspeaker and offers a 10,000 yen reward to the one who destroys Iron Man. But the warlord's offer goes unheard as Iron Man creates an electrical interference that replaces his words with static. The hero then switches the loudspeaker's input to his own suit and orders the tyrant's men to desert their leader and flee into the jungle. The guerrillas oblige, and Iron Man then prepares to finally defeat Wang Chu. He activates a hidden buzzsaw within one of his mechanical fingers and breaks his way into the tower, where the villain is hiding. But Wang Chu had been waiting for Iron Man and shoves a cabinet full of rocks at him as he's walking up a flight of stairs. The cabinet crashes into the hero, sends him careening back down the steps, and pins him under its weight. Thus Wang Chu escapes his foe to slay the rest of his prisoners while he still has the chance. Expending the majority of his suit's electrical power, Iron Man overcomes the cabinet and heads outside to stop Wang Chu. Yet with so little energy left, the hero knows he can't pursue the tyrant. So instead he squirts out a pressurized stream of lubricant oil to a nearby ammunition depot. And just as Wang Chu passes by, Iron Man pulls out a lighter encased in his suit and lights the stream's trail. Acting like a fuse to dynamite, the ensuing oil fire ignites the gunpowder in the munitions depot and produces a powerful explosion which brings an end to Wang Chu. Iron Man then quickly recharges his batteries and sets free the warlord's prisoners. The issue subsequently ends as we see Iron Man don his ill-fitting disguise and leave the encampment, left to wonder what will become of him and the mechanical marvel that keeps him alive. That concludes Iron Man's first appearance in Tales of Suspense 39 and another episode of the Classic Comic Archive. But as always, I would like to offer a brief review of this issue. Overall, I thought that this was a great introduction to Iron Man. It was somewhat refreshing seeing a superhero whose powers aren't born from some kind of freak occurrence, but ingenuity and determination. I'm hoping the coming issues lean into this and don't just have Iron Man defeat his villains with brute force. I do have to say that Wang Chu as a villain was pretty one note, but ultimately he fulfilled his purpose well enough. Speaking of villains, I'm interested to see what foes Iron Man faces off against in these early issues. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never felt that Iron Man had a particularly strong rogues gallery compared to say Spider-Man or the X-Men, especially among his earliest appearances. On one hand it might be refreshing to see a number of villains most of us have never heard of. Yet on the other hand, if any of those villains turn out to be any good, we can't count on them to be coming back. In any case, let me know what you thought of this issue and the video, and feel free to suggest other classic comics for me to cover. Thanks for watching.